Superior Spider-Man. Superior Spider-Man stands as a chilling example of what happens when heroism is filtered through the mind of a villain. When Otto Octavius, better known as Dr. Octopus, assumed control of Peter Parker's body, he brought a cold, calculating approach to Spider-Man's mission. Otto's intellect and ambition drove him to reshape Spider-Man's legacy, determined to outdo Peter in every way and prove himself the superior version. Otto's methods were relentless. He unleashed a network of tiny spider-shaped drones, or Spiderbots, to blanket New York City with surveillance, tracking both criminals and heroes. His focus on efficiency led to brutal confrontations. Criminals who once faced Spider-Man's restraint now encountered violence and intimidation. One of the most unsettling moments came when Otto brutally killed the serial murderer massacre, a move that shocked his peers and bystanders alike. Even longtime foes like the Vulture faced a level of force that left the community questioning whether Spider-Man had become something to fear. Despite Otto's efforts to erase Peter's presence, fragments of Peter's consciousness lingered, surfacing in moments of moral hesitation. During critical decisions, Otto would pause, haunted by Peter's memories and the weight of true responsibility. Ultimately, this internal struggle forced Otto to confront what it truly meant to be a hero. In the end, Otto relinquished control, allowing Peter to return and restore the heart behind the mask. Zombie Spider-Man. On Earth 2149, Peter Parker faces a nightmare that strips away everything familiar. Introduced in Ultimate Fantastic Four number 22, this version of Spider-Man is infected by a zombie virus that devastates his reality. Unlike most of the afflicted, Peter keeps his intellect and personality, but these remnants only deepen his tragedy. The virus floods him with an uncontrollable hunger for flesh, forcing him to commit acts that defy everything he once stood for. The most harrowing moment occurs when Peter, overcome by his hunger, kills Aunt May and Mary Jane Watson, his closest loved ones. Even as he succumbs to the virus, Peter's sense of guilt and responsibility lingers, leaving him tormented by his actions. This ongoing struggle between his heroic instincts and the virus's demands defines him as a tragic figure. He questions his own monstrosity, unable to reconcile his need to survive with the horror of what he's done. The devastation of Earth 2149 does not stay contained. The zombie plague spreads, and Peter, along with other infected heroes, acquires the power cosmic and becoming a cosmic horror that devours whole worlds, later even devouring cosmic entities and invading other realities. Still, Peter's internal conflict never fully disappears. His guilt and fractured sense of duty occasionally drive him to resist the plague's influence, showing that even in the depths of corruption, his core values remain. Darkhold Spider-Man. In Darkhold Spider-Man number 1, Peter Parker's fate takes a sinister turn after he encounters the Darkhold, an ancient grimoire of black magic, written by the Elder God Stan. With reality falling apart around him, Peter's webs are the last barrier, holding the chaos at bay, and the Darkhold exploits that burden. Its corruptive power warps Peter's heroic resolve, amplifying his sense of duty until it becomes unbearable. As the pressure mounts, Peter's mind begins to fracture, and the line between hero and monster disappears. The Darkhold influence transforms Peter both mentally and physically. He mutates into a monstrous figure with additional spider-like eyes, a cape made of dissolving webbing, and powerful three-fingered claws. But the real horror lies in his actions. Driven by a desperate need to fix the unraveling world, Peter backstabs Reed Richards by grotesquely using his body to try and undo the catastrophe. The Darkhold twists Peter's defining virtues, his responsibility and determination, into obsessions that blind him to the harm he causes. Even his greatest strengths become tools of destruction, as his moral code collapses under the weight of impossible expectations. This version of Spider-Man reveals how magic can corrupt even the strongest will, turning a hero's sense of obligation into a prison. Spider's Shadow Venom. In Spider-Man Spider's Shadow number 1, Peter Parker faces a pivotal choice. Instead of rejecting the Venom symbiote, he lets it become a permanent part of him. This decision marks the beginning of his transformation from hero to brutal anti-hero. The symbiote amplifies his strength and speed, but it also heightens his anger and sense of injustice, feeding on his guilt and rage. The symbiote pushes him past any moral restraint. As Peter's judgment erodes, he begins murdering his villains and even turns on his allies. The most chilling moments come when he attacks other heroes and kills those he once tried only to subdue, actions that leave the city and his loved ones in fear. Mary Jane and Aunt May, once his anchors, become wary of the person he's become. The symbiote doesn't invent new darkness in Peter, it magnifies what's already there. His anger, guilt, and impulse for control take over, twisting his sense of responsibility into violent retribution. It's a stark reminder that unchecked power, even his own, can twist his sense of responsibility into brutality. Ultimately, Peter manages to free himself from the symbiote's grasp, but not before seeing how far he can fall. Spider-Goblin. The Spider-Goblin emerges in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6, number 51, when Peter Parker's life takes an unexpected turn at Oscorp. His uneasy alliance with Norman Osborn is put to the test when Peter intervenes during a crisis involving a mystical spear meant to purge Norman of his sins. In a split-second act of heroism, Peter saves Norman, only for the spear's curse to transfer Osborn's sins directly to him. Peter literally inherits Norman's decades of villainy, and the corruption begins to twist his mind and spirit from within. This transformation is unlike any Peter has faced. The sins infect every aspect of his being, merging his sense of responsibility with the Green Goblin's chaos. As Spider-Goblin, Peter's actions become unpredictable and dangerous. He lashes out at allies, and even Osborn's own arsenal is turned against its creator. The result is a grotesque hybrid, a version of Spider-Man, with exaggerated, goblin-like features that make his spiritual corruption unmistakable. The Spider-Goblin is not just a physical mutation, it's a living symbol of how external evil can override even the strongest moral core. Spider-Goblin stands as a warning that sometimes a hero's downfall comes not from their own choices, but from the darkness forced upon them by others. The consequences of losing control to someone else's influence can be just as terrifying as any internal struggle. Savage Spider-Man. In Non-Stop Spider-Man number 5, Baron Zemo executes a scheme that transforms Peter Parker into something unrecognizable. Using the A+ serum, Zemo gains mental control over Peter, weaponizing him for his own purposes. The serum, intended to make its subject obedient, reacts unpredictably with Peter's radioactive physiology. Instead of simple mind control, it triggers a monstrous mutation. Peter becomes the Savage Spider-Man. This transformation is among the most disturbing in Spider-Man's history. Peter's body mutates with razor-sharp mandibles, additional limbs, and bristling hairs, turning him into a massive, predatory creature. Even Zemo, a cold-blooded mastermind, is reportedly horrified by the result. Despite the physical horror, Peter retains a sliver of awareness, but he is powerless to resist Zemo's commands. Zemo exploits Peter's powers, forcing him to attack allies and serve as an unwilling weapon. The red webbing Peter spins under Zemo's control becomes a symbol of his lost autonomy, as he is compelled to betray everything he stands for. Unlike mindless transformations such as Man-Spider, Savage Spider-Man is tragically aware of his actions, but unable to stop them. The horror lies not just in the monstrous appearance, but in the violation of Peter's free will. This loss of agency underscores how even the strongest heroes can be reduced to tools by those who seek to control them. Spider-Lizard. In Spectacular Spider-Man number 39, Peter Parker's encounter with the Innovator device marks the beginning of one of his most disturbing changes. During a confrontation with the Schizoid Man, the Innovator's attempt to drain energy from Peter's body instead triggers a mutation. The result is the Spider-Lizard, a grotesque hybrid that fuses his human form with reptilian features. Peter's transformation is immediate and severe. His skin turns green and scaly, a long, muscular tail extends behind him, and his head morphs into that of a lizard, complete with razor fangs and slit pupil eyes. Sharp claws emerge from his hands and feet, yet his bipedal stance and human musculature remain, making the creature both monstrous and eerily familiar. The loss of Peter's intellect is just as striking as the physical changes. His thoughts vanish beneath primal instincts, and he can barely speak, reduced to hissing and repeating only the name of his new form. The story's most unsettling twist comes when Dr. Kirk Connors, usually the Lizard and Peter's adversary, must step in to administer the cure. This reversal inverts their usual dynamic, forcing Connors to save Peter from the same fate he once suffered. The Spider-Lizard episode highlights how easily external manipulation can turn Spider-Man's strengths into vulnerabilities, stripping away not just his humanity, but his agency. Spider-Hulk. On Earth 122, Peter Parker's transformation into Spider-Hulk merges his spider abilities with gamma-induced strength. In Web of Spider-Man number 70, Bruce Banner's intervention exposes Peter to a gamma-irradiated spider, altering his biology in ways that leave him unrecognizable. The result is a hybrid with enough strength to lift over 100 tons, superhuman agility and the ability to crawl on walls, making him one of the most physically dominant Spider-Man variants ever imagined. The physical changes are immediate and dramatic. Spider-Hulk's body swells with muscle, towering over ordinary humans, while retaining spider-like traits that make him both monstrous and uncanny. Yet the true darkness of this form is psychological. Unlike the Hulk, whose rage drives his destructive outbursts, Spider-Hulk is marked by resignation, overwhelmed by the fear of hurting others and the burden of his uncontrollable power. Peter does not lash out or seek a cure. Instead, he simply lets himself be captured rather than risk harming innocents. This act of surrender stands in stark contrast to the usual determination that defines Spider-Man. Spider-Hulk's story is not about corruption or violence, but about the toll of unchosen power and the despair that can follow. The monstrous form evokes fear, but it is Peter's decision to withdraw from the world that sets this variant apart. The other. After suffering a brutal defeat and apparent death at the hands of Morlun in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 4, Peter Parker's journey takes a disturbing turn. Instead of dying, Peter is resurrected through the intervention of the Other, a mysterious spider totem entity tied to the primal source of his powers. This resurrection is not a simple return to life. It is a transformation that pushes Peter closer to the untamed, predatory side of his abilities. The Other is recognized in totem lore as the most powerful evil Spider-Man, making the stakes of this transformation especially dire. Peter emerges from his cocoon with organic webbing, lethal wrist stingers, and night vision that blurs the line between man and spider. These new abilities enhance his strength and senses, but come with a cost. They awaken animalistic instincts that threaten to overwhelm his human side. The Other's influence is not just physical, it is a psychological challenge, tempting Peter to embrace a more savage and ruthless version of himself. He faces an internal struggle, weighing the temptation of raw power against his commitment to responsibility and compassion. Ultimately, Peter rejects the Other's dark gifts, choosing to hold on to his humanity and passing this dangerous power to Kane. This decision reaffirms his moral core, but the episode leaves a lasting question. How close did he come to losing everything that made him Peter Parker? Man-Spider. Few Spider-Man transformations strike deeper fear than the emergence of Man-Spider, often described as Peter Parker's most infamous and horrifying spider form. This mutation first appeared in the Six-Armed Saga in Amazing Spider-Man number 100, where an attempt to rid himself of his powers backfired, but it reaches its most disturbing extreme with Man-Spider, a complete regression into something monstrous. In this state, Peter's body mutates into a grotesque hybrid, sprouting 6 extra limbs and mandibles that swallow his humanity whole. His face distorts into a spider's visage, with compound eyes and a mouth filled with sharp fangs, while his hands and feet become pincers. There is no trace of Peter's intellect or morality, only raw, predatory instinct remains. The Man-Spider transformation recurs as a nightmare throughout Spider-Man's history, surfacing whenever Peter's genetic makeup destabilizes, or he is exposed to experimental serums and extreme physical stress. Each time, the result is the same: a bestial creature driven by primal urges, incapable of recognizing friend from foe. Unlike forms such as Spider-Lizard or Savage Spider-Man, which preserve some aspect of Peter's awareness, Man-Spider is pure body horror, a living weapon stripped of identity and control. Man-Spider stands as a reminder of how thin the line is between hero and monster, and how easily Spider-Man's gifts can become a curse. Chasm. Ben Reilly, Peter Parker's clone, once embodied everything noble about Spider-Man as the heroic Scarlet Spider. But in Amazing Spider-Man number 93, Ben's tragic journey reaches its breaking point, transforming him into Chasm, a figure shaped by shattered identity and relentless psychological trauma. His repeated deaths and resurrections, orchestrated by the Jackal, fractured his mind. With every revival, pieces of his personality and soul were stripped away, eroding the heroic spirit he once shared with Peter. Jackal's repeated resurrections shattered Ben's identity, transforming him into a sadistic tactician. The endless cycle of dying and returning left Ben plagued by doubt and confusion, unable to trust his own memories or sense of self. Chasm's alliance with the Goblin Queen and Hallows' Eve marks his full embrace of villainy as he unleashes hell on Earth using his intellect and spider powers. His enhanced spider sense, now weaponized for perfect counterattack, turns a defensive gift into a tool for calculated cruelty. While Peter Parker's spider sense warns him of danger, Chasm's allows him to strike back with precision, amplifying his threat. The tragic irony is that Ben was created to mirror Peter Parker's heroism. Instead, the trauma of resurrection destroyed everything that made him a hero, leaving only bitterness and malice. Chasm's story is a warning: even the most noble hearts can be broken beyond recognition by relentless manipulation. Spiderside. Spiderside, introduced in Amazing Spider-Man number 399, stands out as one of the Jackal's most dangerous creations. Engineered as a clone of Peter Parker, Spiderside was implanted with false memories, leading him to believe without question that he was the real Spider-Man. Unlike Ben Reilly, who wrestled with self-doubt, Spiderside's absolute certainty fueled a violent campaign to claim Peter's life as his own. He resorted to deadly biological contagions and mass murder, targeting anyone he saw as an imposter obstacle, including Peter, Ben, and even those close to them. Spiderside's attacks were calculated, using Peter's scientific knowledge to create weapons of mass destruction. He lured victims through dating sites, fixating on Mary Jane Watson and attempting to force his way into Peter's relationships. His unstable molecular structure granted him unpredictable shape-shifting abilities. He could alter his size, density, and form at will, and his immunity to Spider-Man's spider sense made him nearly impossible to detect. This combination of certainty and power turned Spiderside into a relentless threat, acting with conviction even as he committed atrocities in the name of a false identity. Despite his violence, Spiderside's story takes a tragic turn when he sacrifices himself to save Ben Reilly, showing a fleeting glimpse of humanity. His existence raises questions about what happens when a hero's identity is twisted by design, rather than by trauma or corruption. Webman. Dr. Doom's creation of Webman in Spidey Super Stories number 25 stands out as a straightforward inversion of Spider-Man's heroism. Using his twisted mirror, Twin Machine, Doom generates an artificial duplicate of Peter Parker, granting him the same powers and abilities. But where Spider-Man's sense of responsibility and intellect guide his actions, Webman's purpose is the opposite: to commit crimes and serve Doom's agenda. Even his costume mirrors this intent. His red and blue are swapped for darkened tones, signaling his reversed morality and making his villainous role immediately clear. Webman's most significant flaw is his greatly reduced intelligence. Unlike Peter, whose quick wit and sharp mind are essential to his heroism, Webman is notably slow and lacks strategic thinking. Even his puns are worse than Peter's, a detail that underscores his comic book simplicity and lack of depth. His approach to villainy is direct and uncomplicated, never rising above the level of a blunt instrument for Doom schemes. There is no inner turmoil or complex motivation. Webman is evil by design, a narrative foil whose existence highlights the importance of Peter Parker's moral choices. When Spider-Man destroys the Twin Machine, Webman and his duplicate, Webby 2, vanish instantly. Their brief existence is a reminder that evil manufactured without genuine purpose or identity rarely endures. Spidersman. Spidersman of Earth 11580, introduced in Spider-Geddon number 3, stands apart from other variants by embodying a collective nightmare. During an investigation at Horizon Labs, Peter Parker falls into a colony of genetically engineered, radioactive spiders. Instead of surviving or gaining powers in the traditional sense, his body is consumed, and his consciousness merges with the swarm. The result is a hive mind that retains Peter's memories, but is driven by voracious spider instincts. The colony forms a humanoid shape, a constantly shifting, crawling mass that mimics Peter's appearance from a distance, but up close reveals its inhuman, unsettling nature. This version of Spider-Man exists in a constant struggle as fragments of Peter's personality are frequently overridden by the colony's predatory urges. His moral compass is erased, replaced by a hunger that guides his actions. Spider-Man possesses the unique ability to operate in multiple locations at once, sending swarms across realities to bite and paralyze foes. His presence during the Spider-Geddon event highlights how dangerous he is, not bound to a single body, but able to spread and attack from anywhere. The loss of individual identity and the dominance of primal instincts make him a persistent and unpredictable threat to other spider people. Spider-Man's existence challenges the very idea of what it means to be a hero or a villain, as the lines between self and swarm disappear. Pestilence. On Earth 5701, Peter Parker's fate is sealed when Apocalypse, a powerful mutant overlord, captures and transforms him into Pestilence, one of his 4 horsemen. Pestilence first appears in Cable and Deadpool number 15, marking a point where Peter retains no part of his previously honorable personality. Apocalypse's genetic alterations and mental conditioning erase Peter's identity, turning him into a ruthless agent of destruction. Unlike other Spider-Man variants who struggle with internal conflict, Pestilence is shaped entirely entirely by external control, stripped of any compassion or humanity. The transformation into Pestilence brings disturbing physical changes. Peter's body mutates, with additional limbs and grotesque fangs, and he gains the power to spread disease and poison. He even develops a hunger for bone marrow, a grotesque perversion of his web-slinging self. His agility and web abilities remain, but they are now tools for hunting and harming rather than saving. The change is total. Peter's moral compass is obliterated, and he follows Apocalypse's commands without hesitation. Pestilence Spider-Man stands as a stark example of how a hero's potential can be corrupted when free will is erased. The horror lies not only in his monstrous form, but in the complete loss of autonomy and the weaponization of everything that once made Peter Parker a force for good. So who's your favorite dark variant of Spider-Man? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to see more Explainerverse videos just like this one.